arrogant as long as you're not ignorant and you're the best at your job. Okay? And I am the best at my job. So sometimes I appear arrogant. Okay? That's only because I'm the best.
Huge egos are often found in the world of business. Self-made millionaire Frank Tuff is responsible for creating Europe's biggest market, Camden. Now he wants to repeat the success in Liverpool.
Well, yeah, usually they never listen to me, but they will do. One of these days they'll say, oh, golly, he does know what he's talking about. Oh, no, you look after yourself. God bless, mate. Till that way. Bye-bye. 2008, yeah, is European City of Culture. 1.5 million more people will come to Liverpool that year, just like they did to Glasgow. Why are they coming back? Tourism. And that's what we're about. Tourism, okay? We will create the biggest tourist attraction outside of London. Hence, people will come here. I can bring an extra 200,000 a week into Merseyside, which is half their population.
Following Frank for a day, it's clear to see that he has a larger-than-life ego. But can he really be called an egomaniac?
If I open 3 days a week, and you take £3,000, how much is a reasonable rent?
150.
What?
150.
150? Yeah. Then you might as well pack yourself up and go now, because if I get you £3 a week, yeah, I'll be at least looking for £400 of it, okay? Are you crazy? Yeah, he came in, I swear to God, he said, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I was, please, take a seat, mate. Just please take a seat. Fucking sit down, you I'm sorry for using that C word, but, you know, just lost it. And then by the time he got halfway down the corridor, I got past him. So, and my brother's like, Frank, don't hit him. I can go from Mika Mild to complete nutcase like that. Okay? And back to Mika Mild like that. Yeah? And that's the only way you can do my job.
Frank Tuff has got the biggest ego you will ever see in a man. He thinks he is the best at everything. He is, no matter what you've done, where you've been, he's done it and he's done it better. He's the best skier. He's the best racing driver. He's the best boxer. He's the best market operator. He's the best in bed. He's the best at life. He's got the best girlfriends. He's got the best car. Everything you can think of, he thinks he's at the top. And sometimes I think, come back down to earth a little bit.
For many, Frank might appear as the ultimate egomaniac. But in today's society, the term is often misused. The true definition of the word relates to something far more sinister. Professor Jeremy Coyd is a forensic psychiatrist. He's studied the ego for over 40 years. From teenage truants to mass murdering psychopaths, he's experienced the full spectrum of what the ego is capable of.
Ego is a total necessity for all people, that unless you have some sense of yourself and then some sense of importance and individuality of yourself, you have enormous problems. You have enormous problems in life, coping, and you have enormous problems in relating to others. Egomania is an interesting term which is not used by psychologists or psychiatrists. It actually is something that goes back to the 19th century, the idea of being essentially mad in narrow areas of life and behaviour. Egomania, I think it is the layman's term for narcissistic personality disorder, yes.
The term narcissistic derives from the mythical image of Narcissus, the boy who pined away at his own reflection and became a symbol of destructive self-love.
One of the things that with narcissism is that everybody does need a degree of narcissism, and in fact narcissism relates to success in life. There's a direct relationship. The more narcissistic you are, the more financial, material success you have in life.
Psychologists have defined a list of 9 characteristics associated with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. Many of us display these traits but learn to control them. But for those who cannot, like a pressure gauge, danger arises when the needle hits red. And Frank clearly displays 3 of the 9 characteristics.
When you get confident and you can dance, yeah, the girls talk to you. And more girls talk to me than anything.
Arrogance.
I created the biggest tourist attraction in the UK. So I know I'm good.
Grandiosity. But perhaps Frank's most dominant characteristic is preoccupation with success.
I drive myself hard because of failure. I never want to fail.
Take the pay 105. Bollocks to it.
You want something?
I'm not a fucking stupid person, you know.
I always want to succeed in everything I do.
I want each and every one of those people chased up right now.
Yeah.
Okay? The ones that you know that are here,
yeah.
Okay, I want them in the next 29 fucking minutes. I want it now.
I would call myself a very confident person, not an egomaniac. I would not call myself an egomaniac.
He's an idiot. John Whelan, John. Can I shout any fucking louder?
I'm a very, very quick learner. Might take me half a year to learn your job. Take me about half an hour to learn his. And about 15 minutes to learn hers. Okay? Sorry about that. That's my ego coming out.
Although Frank displays 3 traits associated with narcissistic personality disorder, to be clinically diagnosed, you need to have 5 or more dominating your character at the same time. Such individuals have personalities that can border on the unhealthy.
Everybody seemed very shaken up by September 11th, and I thought, I don't live in New York.
There are 9 characteristics associated with egomania, or as it's clinically known, narcissistic personality disorder. For some, these are controllable, and like a pressure gauge, having 5 or more, all in the red, can define an individual as having NPD. In other words, a true egomaniac. Frank displays the larger-than-life ego that many of us are familiar with. He has 3 traits, and is relatively low on the ladder. But adding just 1 more trait can make a dramatic difference.
I'd hear about some disaster and people would go, oh God, I can't believe it, and they'd be obviously shaken. I'd be like, you know, I'd stare around and I'd be like, so what?
David sits on the next rung of the ladder. He has 4 characteristics associated with NPD, and the most dominant one is a lack of empathy. For fear of losing his job, he wishes to remain anonymous.
I felt it very much on September 11th, as a matter of fact. I mean, everybody seemed very shaken up by September 11th, and I thought, I don't live in New York. And I thought, boy, this isn't normal. Normal people don't feel this disconnected from the rest of humanity. I mean, they're not this selfish. Because people in my town were gathering out on the street and hugging and crying on September 11th. And I was just like, wow, something's definitely wrong with me, you know, because I'm not getting this.
Lack of empathy is one of the key features of NPD. It's very subtle. They don't really care. They don't care if you're hurt. They won't be sad if you're heartbroken. These individuals are ultimately unable to love. They don't have true, deep feelings of caring for others. But actually lack of true feelings, lack of feelings of guilt, lack of feelings of remorse in the more severe cases of NPD can actually facilitate you getting what you want. If you don't feel sorry because you've hurt somebody or somebody's lost because you've conned them or you've committed a fraud, then what the hell? You get on.
David's lack of empathy not only affects his outlook and attitude to others, it also affects his perception of himself. As a result, some of life's most emotional moments appear to pass him by.
I went to my father's funeral and people, you know, who are barely related to my dad are standing around crying. I wasn't happy that my father died, but I mean, I wasn't upset enough to cry. And I don't know why that is. I mean, because there's a certain amount of emotional barrenness involved in narcissism.
Even what many consider to be the happiest day of their lives leaves David cold.
When I got married, from the time I took my vows, I had no intention of being emotionally faithful. I had no intention of being emotionally committed. I probably had no intention of being physically faithful. It was really like I was just doing it because it was expected. You know, like, you want me to get married? Fine, I'll do it. You know, I will show up. I'll go to your wedding, but and I'll say your words, but it means nothing to me. If I meet a bridesmaid there, I don't know what might happen.
David paints a lonely existence of someone who has just 4 traits of NPD. To be clinically diagnosed, you need 5 or more. So, how can one tell? Psychologists have devised a simple test. Depending on how many times you answer yes to the following questions, may mean that you suffer from NPD.
Do people often fail to appreciate your very special talents or accomplishments? Have people told you that you have too high an opinion of yourself? Do you think a lot about the power, fame or recognition that will be yours someday? When you have a problem, do you almost always insist on seeing the top person? Is it very important to you that people pay attention to you or admire you in some way? And do you feel that you deserve special treatment? Do you often expect other people to do what you ask without question because of who you are? Do you often find it necessary to step on a few toes to get what you want? Would you say that you're not really interested in other people's problems or feelings? Are you often envious of others? Do you find that there are very few people that are really worth your time and attention? Thank you very much.
If you answered yes 5 times or more, it could mean that you have NPD. Malignant Self-Love by Dr. Sam Vaknin is one of the first true attempts to understand a narcissist.
The narcissist is addicted to a drug called narcissistic supply. Narcissistic supply is a fancy term, and it describes all forms of attention, both positive and negative. Narcissists are very utilitarian, very pragmatic, and very flexible, multi-purpose machines. They have what I call X-ray vision. They are able, instantly, to diagnose the weaknesses, vulnerabilities, soft spots, predilections, fears, hopes, and emotional needs of everyone around them, and to put it to use instantaneously, relentlessly, and ruthlessly. Narcissists never regret what they do, simply because they do not hold themselves responsible to the consequences of their actions.
Crossing these individuals can be a daunting experience, especially if you have to do it on a daily basis. The workplace is a familiar backdrop for tales of the egomaniac.
For about 10 years I experienced incidences of bullying.
I would often sit in my car and not be able to drive home because I was either so angry or I was just in floods of tears.
The general manager had a habit of breaking down someone's reputation and then building it back up, and I became his target.
Charlotte was once a successful personnel manager for a high street store. Soon her dream job turned into a nightmare when her female boss began to make her life unbearable.
When I first met her, she was extremely charming, very friendly and personable, and I felt that we would have a very strong working relationship. It was within a couple of months that things actually started to change. Her behaviour became very, very cool. She became very obtuse with me and seemed to constantly be critical of the work that I was doing.
Adrian was a manager at a software company until a new boss joined the firm.
My line manager called me into a room for an informal chat. In that chat, it turned out that it was a disciplinary hearing, and he said, "We're going to have to give you a written warning." which was a real surprise to me. And he said, well, your performance is being monitored.